Good morning, everyone. Let me know if the video is good, audio, if everything's okay, if you can see me on the slides. Good morning, Vicky, Alessandra, Courtney, Doreen, Dorea, Fernando, Jair, Jerry. Nice to see you again, Jerry. Everybody, so let's get started. Just played a quick video talking about a little bit of myself, the training, and what to expect. Please type the questions here on the chat at any time. I'm going to be reading the chat while I present. Yes, good morning. You don't need to have your camera on. I think it's more important than have the camera is to participate, be engaged, answer the questions, share your ideas. That's even more important than the camera. But I do want to see your engagement. So we're going to start doing a quick overview on property inspection. What is it? What is not? Some potential conflict of interest and some important aspects that is involved with the inspection. And then today I'm going to give you tons of examples of what is inspection, and I'll show you common findings, common concerns from the inspection. Then I'm going to start today with auxiliary services, 4-point wind mitigation, depending on the time, on the second half. Tomorrow we finish with 4-point wind mitigation, mold, termites, sewer line, and all auxiliary services, everything that is not included on the standard home inspections, and so much more. I'm going to talk about pre-listing, new building, how to handle issues, how to pass home inspection, or in other words, tips for listing agents, and so much more. So we're going to have a packet, 2 days, 4 hours full of information to help you out. So for you, sounds good, perfect. So for you to get the credits, the CE credits, you need to be present the entire time, the 2 days, okay? There is no partial credit. If you come one day, it doesn't come to the second one, you cannot get partial credits. You cannot get like for 2 hours. It's either 4 or nothing. That's how it's vested on GPVR. All right, Lisa, sounds like a plan. Yeah, let's do it. So I already talked about myself. I showed my book. It's available on Amazon. It's a great reference for the class. I have other classes as well. I have one specific class for mold. I have one specific class for termite. I have additional classes for negotiations and selling. Those are very good complements for the class. You can get all those specialty credits for your license renewal. No. Okay, so let's take a look now and what to expect from the property inspection. So, as I mentioned before, a property inspection is an unbiased opinion of the condition of the house. It's a professional that is going to take a look on what is visible, readily accessible at the time of the inspection, and provide additional information for your buyers. A lot of buyers don't crawl in the roof to see what is the condition of the tiles. They don't crawl in the attic to see what is going on, if there is leaks or termites or rats or whatever. They don't open electric panels to see if the installation is safe, and so much more. So the property inspection is not perfect, is not comprehensive, is not complete, but provides an additional layer of investigation, additional layer of information that is going to help you to make a decision, your buyers to make a decision on if they're going to move forward with the deal or not, given what is found. And yes, Danielle, there are a lot of double taps everywhere. So it does include the roof. Roof is one of the key elements to keep the home watertight, and it's expensive and important. It does include taking a look if there is no foundation issues. We cannot see the foundation, but when there is an issue with the foundation and the house starts to respond and move, because the house is a system, any movement in any element is going to be reflected in other elements. So if the foundation is cracking and moving and the soil is moving, the floors will crack, walls will displace and move and crack. Sometimes the roof responds, sometimes you can see in the trusses in the attic, and you can have an idea on what is going on. So that assessment, it's also included. Property inspectors can see if those cracks are structural cracks or not. The envelope of the house is very important to keep also the property watertight, maybe energy efficient, maybe keep insects, intruders away. So taking a look of the envelope of the house is very important. And then comes the mechanicals. That includes the AC, electric panel, plumbing. AC is important because it's one of the most expensive systems in the house. Electrical is important because it's where most of the fires starts due electrical. So fire hazard is related to electrical. And plumbing is very important because leaks in dry walls can trigger mold and can affect environmental conditions inside the house. So those systems are very important. Those are called mechanicals. And then interior systems, appliances, and everything else. Doors, windows, interior elements. Usually an inspection takes a couple of hours. If you want to know what is included, you can type on Google standards of practice of property inspections. You're going to find ASHI, Internaci, FABI. FABI is a great one, Florida Association of Building Inspectors. Those guys do a great job. I'm part of FABI as well, on having meetings every quarter and keep inspectors well informed. Internaci is great because there are a lot of online trainings and certifications. So for those inspectors that don't have the time, they can do the trainings on nights and weekends. And ASHI is the national standard. Actually, Housemaster helped a lot to build that standard 40 years ago. This is a very solid standard. They all copy from each other, and they're very similar. And also we have the law. The law is, coffee much needed, yes. All right, so let's go over property inspections for realtors part number 2 here on the first day of our 4 hours training. And I'm gonna go over some typical concerns found during the property inspection. So the first one is identifying end-of-life signs, right? So if I take a look in the roof and I see, for example, in an asphalt shingle roof, exposed nails, the felt being exposed before, granules, excess granular loss, those nails are rusted over there in this picture. All those are signs that that shingle is losing its capability to protect the deck from the water. Those granular loss are going to show in the gutters as well as a sign. So all those little details, everything counts. Awesome. That's another example of end of life. What do you think about this membrane? What do you think? Not watertight, exactly. So this membrane is all cracked, doesn't have a smooth surface, probably 15, 20 years. In this case, I think it was not well installed. Yeah, oh my God. This will not protect the property. It is not watertight. Christian is saying, no bueno. It's all broken, it's dead. So we can see when the roof is at the end of the life. So on the membrane, typical signs are alligatoring, as Jerry just mentioned here, is when you see that cracking and surface that resembles the back of an alligator. When we see bubbles in a membrane roof, it's a sign of moisture entrapment. So humidity are getting below the membrane, so means that water is getting there somehow. That's a defect that needs to be reported. Granular loss, and when you have all those combined, cracking, alligatoring, granular loss, blisters, and bubbles, that's a sign that the roof is approaching end of life, and you are gonna need a professional repair there. Another example of end of life, for example, in a water heater, would be excessive corrosion on the pipe connections or at the bottom of the tank. So let's say the tank is 15 years and there are no signs of corrosion. Maybe the tank can last few more. We don't know, but it's probable. However, if I see a tank that is only 8 years old and the pipe connection is rusted on the top and the bottom is exactly as this picture, you see all this rusting, this is end of life. Because when the rusting gets outside, imagine how it is inside. The rusting goes from inside out. So much better than just looking at the age of the label of the water heater is to see what is the actual conditions, how this has been used and maintained, and it's the actual condition. And I'm going to show you, Element shows signs of end of life. That's a good evaluation. I have some questions here. Patricia, to ensure the property, what is considered end of life for roof? Well, we need to see those signs of end of life, right? And I gave you a couple of examples. Alessandra, for insurance purposes, carriers don't like anything over 10 years. It depends on the roof. I was able to renew a roof that was a flat cement tile. It was 50 years old, and that was a few years ago, and we are able to get another 5 years on insurance because it was well maintained. It has been sealed with the elastomeric membrane, silicone elastomeric membrane every 3 years. So every 3 years they have a roofer with a permit and they reseal the roof, and there was no signs of leak, and the insurance company would take it. So the decision is not mine. The decision of will the insurance accept and renew? I don't know, but I can tell my opinion and they might take it. But we're going to talk about more about insurance when we get into the 4-point and wind mitigation. But now we're talking about the property inspection by itself. Also the end of life for roofs, coming back for roofs a little bit, since I see here your questions here in the chat. A roof lifespan also depends on the materials used. So a membrane lifespan is from 10 to 15 usually, while shingles, it's from 15 to 25, and tiles, it's from 20 to 35. So it depends on the materials that you have on the roof. That's going to also change the evaluation of the insurance company. Alessandra is saying here, they like 5 years in my experience, maybe systems over 6 carriers went out of business doing business. They don't like here Florida. That's true. I had an insurance company with my carrier. They left Florida. Many others left. Citizens is the one that is holding here for a long time, and usually they want to see 5 years remaining life on the roof in order to renew the insurance policy. You were correct on that point. All right, so I was saying on the inspection, one of the very important evaluations is end of life. Is the roof at the end of the life? Are the elements at the end of the life? So that the water heater is just one example. This one, for example, it's a stove that has 35 years of operation. Is working fine. I'm not going to tell them to replace. There's no signs of end of life. But it's just, they need to be aware there's an older equipment. They cannot find parts for replacement. And if it breaks, they'll have to replace. So it's just a higher probability of replacement in the near future. Another item that is important here for the property inspections is evaluation of potential or latent concerns. So those are potential issues that will arise given the conditions. For example, in this picture, this roof was repaired, that's fine, I see, but the flashings are not properly installed. They don't go inside the brick. They use inadequate material to seal. The way that the flashing it's attached here to the shingles doesn't go below it. I know that it was done by a handyman. It's kind of a patch. It's called unprofessional repair. And so the life of an unprofessional repair is shorter. They will have an issue here. If they repair, it's probably because they have a leak, and the leak will show up again in the near future. So those are the things that is good to be called attention. Another latent concern, and that's very common, it's water pounding on flat roofs. Listen, flat roofs will leak. Why? Because the water just sits there. Ideally, you want a roof to take the water away to avoid the risk of leaks, right? That's the function of the roof, to make the water go away. And the flat roof that doesn't have any slope is completely flat. The water is gonna just pound and stay there, just waiting for an opportunity to find a way down to the other building elements. So flat roofs have a high probability of leak. And I always call attention of home buyers if they are buying a property with flat roof, because they require more maintenance. If you have a flat roof, you should have a roofer to stop by every 3 years to take a look and keep resealing, because those roofs will leak. The best way to find leaks in roofs is through the attic. So you want to have your inspector to go over the roof, take a look on the overall conditions of the tiles, estimate lifespan and how many years remaining you have. Here in Florida is important for the 4-point and insurance renewal, but the best place to see if there's pre-existing condition, if there's roof leaks, is through the attic. When the roof leaks, the water is going to go through the membrane, it's going to reach the roof decks, and you will see those stains. So have an inspector that spends a good time on the attic with a flashlight and looking all those little corners, everything that is visible, accessible. Not all attics enables access everywhere. Newer houses have more room, and we can navigate and go around more. But spending time and seeing those things, that would call attention. And as you asked before, yes, if you have a leak visible in the attic, that's a pre-existing condition, and these will need to be fixed before you can renew the insurance here in South Florida. All right, so the issue then with leaks, they're small and they don't have enough volume to drip, so you can see in the ceiling, they're just there in the attic, is that this humidity staying in that wood may trigger two conditions. One, termites. Termites love humidity in the wood. This is just a magnet for termites. So those small leaks that has been there for a while, and you can see if it is older, if the wood gets darker, like this one on the right, very dark wood, yeah, this has been leaking for a while. So the higher probability of having termites, and also mold will develop when you have humidity. So you need to be careful there. So this is a good picture that illustrates that point. You see this wood is very dark here in the corner. And surely enough, termite here. You can see the termite damage. So they start here in the soffits, fascia, on the border, and they make their way in. Very common here in Florida, dry wood termites. They fly around May. They find their entry points to soffit, fascia, and ventilation. And if they find any point with moist wood, they will start a new colony right there. And it's higher probability that leaks will happen on the borders because you have more volume of the water. It's the ends of the roof. It's where most problems starts to happen, is at the edges. Jerry, Alessandra, you may mean they don't like Florida litigation issues. Yeah, that's a good comment, Jerry. So here are the termites. All right. On the leak side, another very important investigation that inspector should do is around doors and windows. Doors and windows, usually they have a silicone and they have a sealing around them to keep them watertight. And the issue is that this sealing, the silicone, especially in Florida, because you have a strong sun hitting year over year, after 5 or 10 years, that sealing might start failing and water might go around the door frame and the window frame. So using the moisture meter around doors and windows is very important. And if you see moisture there, is because it's not well sealed enough. The issue here, though, is when the water goes around from outside to inside and reach the inside, the joists support the beams, the wall voids might have humidity inside, and you might have mold behind drywall. So you need to open up and repair everything to avoid any further issues. And one place that you don't want to find leaks and humidity is around AC. And it's common to find, though, humidity on the AC box, that box that supports the air handler, because one of the byproducts of the refrigeration is condensation. Every time that you cool down air, you're going to extract humidity. And as the coils gets dirty, it might clog the condensation line. You might have a leak on the water heater, and that brings humidity on that plywood that's supporting the AC box. If you have humidity on the box, mold can grow on that humidity on that box. And humidity around the AC is not a good idea because that mold can be recirculated around the house and people can get sick. So you don't want to see moisture around the AC box. And also be very careful when there is moisture around the fascia and soffits. This is a great picture that shows that. You see on that fascia rusted nails, the wood is getting rotten here, and might not look as a big issue, but every time that you have fascia getting wet, usually is from inside out, and might be a leak that's coming from the roof system, on the border of the roof system. So this needs to be investigated. And every time that we have that moisture and rotten wood in the fascia, it's just a door for a termite infestation. As I told you, termite loves moist wood. In May, when they swarm here in Florida, they will land exactly in that place and they will start a new infestation. Dry wood termites are very common. Somebody said before, and I love that sentence, there are two kinds of homes here in Florida. The ones that have termites and the ones that will have termites. I love that statement because, at one point in time, they will get there. You need to be careful with the maintenance of your property. I have some comments here. Let me read. Flooding, hurricanes, it was scares them. I think we were talking about insurance. Okay. Marianella, can we ask the inspector if they have a thermal camera to show the water inside walls and floor? Yes, you can ask. Marianella, you can ask. Home inspector, do you use, besides moisture meter, an infrared camera? I love infrared camera, and I have one section here that I'm going to talk specifically about thermal imaging. However, you don't need an infrared camera for moisture detection. If you have a good moisture meter, like this one that is shown here in the picture, and you use the moisture meter well, that too, it can be very precise and go a long way. Okay, so infrared cameras are good. There are a lot of advantages, but they're not required, and you can't have a good inspection without infrared cameras. I'm talking about against myself because I love the cameras. I use them all the time, but I don't want you to force people using, because they are very tricky. They give a lot of false positives and false negatives. So using the infrared camera is a great tool, but it's very tricky, and you don't have the certification, the CRT certification, and you don't know how you're using well, it's better not to use. It's a great question though. So still on that moisture investigation and detection and everything else, I mentioned to you that having humidity on the box that supports the AC, you need to be careful because of mold. Also, take a look on the Planon. Take a look at those pictures on the Planon. If you see all those mold stains, they're very common because sometimes the Planon is not well sealed. Air escapes, condensates, and creates mold. And also around the vents, you don't want to see signs of mold around AC components, because the AC leverages the effects of mold and people get sick. All right. Moving gears a little bit here, besides roof, water penetration, and moisture, let's take a look now at safety and electrical. And one very common concern is specifically here in Florida are those panels. They are not accepted by the insurance companies. There are 4 brands that you need to pay attention to. 4 brands: Federal Pacific, Zinsco, Sylvania, and Challenger. Specifically Zinsco and Federal Pacific. And specifically Stab Block design. That's the one that I showed you in the picture. That rounded, colorful one, that design, it's a no. What happened there is when they built those panels, that was on the 70s, they used aluminum. Aluminum was cheap. Everybody was using aluminum because it was cheaper than copper. There was a shortage of copper. However, they found out later that when you have a strong short circuit and the aluminum melts and doesn't break the circuit, and some properties got on fire. So the insurance companies sees those panels as a high risk of fire. They will not take the insurance. They will request you to replace. Now, Federal Pacific and Zinsco, most of them are no. Sylvania and Challenger are some models, but the insurance companies, they don't have this capability to decide which model it is they will have you to replace. Also, you have distribution and service. You can argue that the distribution is the one that protects the house, not the service. They will request you to change everything. So just change those panels. It's safer, it's going to protect your buyers, and the insurance will request. Still on the safety, you have aluminum wire. The issue with the aluminum wire is that aluminum expands and contracts much more than copper. So those wires can get loose on the board, and as they get loose, they can create sparks, and sparks can generate fire. That's why they don't like branched solid aluminum wire. Aluminum wire that comes from FPL to connect the main panel is fine, it's stranded, they have proper connections for that, no problem at all. But solid from the distribution inside your house, not a good idea. They will request either to change the wire or use aluminum connections. Another one is cloth wiring. They are common on the 50s and 60s, maybe beginning of 70s. The issue here is every time they have a strong load on a circuit, like you're gonna dry your hair with a 2000-watt dryer, as soon as you turn on, the current takes few milliseconds to get stable on that circuit, and some arcs might happen between wires given the load. As I'm showing you here in the picture, it's a voltaic arc that can happen. And if you have cloth around the wire, even if they are plastic insulated, even if they're accepted by the insurance, such as Anaconda wire, that cloth can get the spark, and some properties got on fire because of that. So cloth wire, it's safety concern. You should replace the entire wiring of the house. That's always our recommendation. And this other kind of cloth wire that's on this picture on the back, that's a no-no, because it's cloth directly in contact with the wire. That's a no-no. This one, Anaconda, is accepted by insurance, but it's recommended you to replace. Alessandra is saying there is a couple of more in this list. Yeah, but I never found out. On the last 5,000 inspections that we have done, we only came across with those 4 in South Florida. Okay, another topic is cast iron pipes. When they built those properties, 70s and before, they had that horizon that these pipes would last 50 years, maybe 100. Wow, that's great. Material is going to last for a long time. Guess what? 50 years has passed. Back to the future, right? After 50 years, especially here in South Florida, because the soil is so humid, the corrosion might get to a point that these pipes might not be usable anymore. It's end of useful life. If the pipes cracks, dirt is going to get inside, they will clog and can create a backup and a mess in your house. So ideally, if you have properties from 70s and before, you want to have a camera scope inspection to take a look if those pipes are not broken. You will have to replace those. It's a matter of time. Maybe 5, maybe 10, maybe now. So you want to have that idea during the inspection to avoid costly surprises. Do not to replace those pipes. It's about $15,000. Might be the cost of replacing an asphalt shingle roof in a small house. So that's relevant, it's important, it needs to be done. Patricia has a question back on the cloth wire. Today, no cloth is used. Everything is plastic, designed not to catch fire. It's thermal insulated plastic. Yeah, Jerry, the second cloth wire. Yeah, exactly. That's a good. That was a beautiful example. Those pictures, for me to be able to find those specific situations, sometimes takes 1,000 inspections just to find that one picture to put here in the report. And everything here I took with my camera, so it's inspections that we have done. All right, so piping issues. Cast iron pipes are one. Another one, it's polybutylene pipes. Polybutylene pipes were used in the 80s and they discontinued in 1994. But what happened is that in 94, builders knew that they were going to get out of production and they were stocked with those pipes. They used a lot to finalize the stock. So there are a lot of homes, 94, 95, up to 96 with poly pipes. So I'm very careful when the house is built 1994, 95 to search for those pipes. The issue with poly pipes is that the chemical composition of the water can interact with the chemical composition of the pipe. And what happens is that they can get loose at these copper fittings, and then you have a water burst, right? It's going to be a water damage. And that's a liability for the insurance company. So because of the higher risk of water burst, some carriers don't issue insurance with poly pipes. Some others will request you to, they will take it, but they will increase the premiums. And also they will limit the water damage claim to $10,000. I did inspections, I got homes bought and sold with poly pipes, they're fine. Some pipes don't leak. There are people that are living in the house for decades with those pipes. Some other buyers don't like to take that risk. So it all depends on every specific situation. But this is more of an insurability issue. If you have poly pipes, what you need to do is to check with your insurance company if they will take it and how that will affect the insurance policy. All right, defective installations, that's another topic. Some elements are not installed properly. One example, and it's very common, is water heaters. The water heater has a TPRV valve, temperature and pressure release valve. That little thing that is on the top of the water heater. That's because if the thermostat doesn't turn it off and the tank keeps heating, that can explode and become like a rocket. You can find funny YouTube videos of water tanks just going like rockets, So that valve will avoid that, because if the temperature and pressure builds up in the tank, that is going to release and it's going to have this water to flow away of the tank and avoid an explosion. But this valve needs to have enough throughput. Most of the valves here in Florida, they require a 3/4 pipe. But when the handyman comes to install, not a plumber, they're going to put a 1/2-inch pipe. Is not up to the specifications. This needs to be fixed. It's a safety concern. So something so small, like a small piece of pipe, yeah, they can be safety items as well. Sometimes, you're going to install like this one, ducts from the AC, and somebody just scratches and breaks the insulation. So we are always paying attention to defective installations. So let me see some questions here in the chat. All right, can I ask the inspector? Okay, infrared camera answer already. We will be able to tell if there is a leak. There was painted only with the infrared camera. And listen, I think there is a couple more in this list, but I can't find out. Okay, if you find out, let me know, Alessandra. I'll come back to that issue for you. Jerry, just the second cloth. Oh yeah, I already saw this. Patricia, what is, okay, I already went this one. Okay, Jerry, how would you know if a pipe under the slab is leaking? Water usage increase? Do you know, I got, Jerry, one of those cases, the supply pipe under the slab was leaking and we didn't see it. So if it's leaking just a little bit, it's going to be almost impossible for you to know. It's going to be through the water bill, and it's harder to investigate as well. But with the time, as these leaks expands and expands, that humidity is going to go through the slab, and by capillarity, you're going to see stains, and that is going to start affecting the floor. Then we can see the leak. So all depends on the volume and time of the leak. But those are the issues that are hard to catch, and those are the limitations of the inspection. Those are called concealed defects, are the situations that we can't help much. Another comment here, just had one replaced off it in inspection. Okay. Gandhi, you can call your plumber. He will turn all the valves, looks the water meter, and by amount of water still moving, he can determine the main pipe or a little leak. That's a good tip. And I had some people do that before. You know, they close all the water and they keep watching the meter. You can do this with electricity as well. Turn everything off and watch the meter. If the meter is moving, you're losing either current or water. Those are good strategies. Thank you. And those are the things that are not done during the inspection. Okay. All right, so let's keep moving here. We have more items to cover. So issues that can affect the structure. This is one example. The termites, drywood termites, has been there for a long time in this house, more than 10 years, and they have been eating a lot of those trusses. This is looking bottom up, so that can affect the structure. Probably this piece of wood needs to be sistered and reinforced to keep the integrity of the structure. Also columns and support pillars, like this one, you see my screwdriver went all the way through. It's rotten, can affect the structure of the house. That should be noted. Anything that can affect the structure. And here, this picture is one that exemplifies well what is a structural concern. So when you have a hairline crack, that's random, you know, goes, is very thin and doesn't follow a specific pattern. But when you have a structural crack, usually that follows through the bricks and moves along the structure. So you can see this, this crack starts very small, follows the brick, and it widens up. Right? Like an alligator, it starts small and widens up. That's a structural crack because you have displacement, you have movement. Things are getting separated, right? So you know there is movement. In this case, you might need an structural engineer to evaluate. Sometimes you need to put those helicoidal stacks and reinforce and bring the structure back. Anything you can fix, but it's important for you to raise that flag that something is going on. This other picture shows it's also widens up. If I get a coin, a quarter, and I put it flat and it can fit the crack, that's a crack that's important, and usually that is structural. And in this case here, it's not only moving this way, right? But it's also moving this way, vertically and horizontally. We have two kinds of displacement that shows a movement, and those are the situations that you need to be careful and should be noted. To finalize, what do you think about this picture here? What is going on? While you tap the picture, I have a quick question here for Lema. What if the home has cast iron pipes? I'm going to talk more about that tomorrow. It's a good idea to do a sewer camera, snake camera scope, to look inside and see what are the conditions of the pipe. Gandhi has a question here. Our home who are unattended, or you have outside valve, pressure cleaning companies drive up, fill up the water tanks on the back of the truck, most redundant beach happening to one of my listings. Yes, that's a good point. Thank you for sharing. Jerry, get out from under that roof. Yes, exactly. Patricia, the building that collapsed in Miami, why was not disappearing? That's a long story. We can talk offline because I want to focus on the things that we want to cover here. It was apparent, it was structural, there was signs. What happened that the people didn't take action on what was already spotted before. So now they're going to include 4-point inspections for condos, but that doesn't address the structural concerns. But that's a big topic there about the Miami building. So coming back to the picture, Alessandra is saying doesn't look like any support there. Yes, you're right. Cutout structural supports. Exactly. You see, on those posts, they're supporting the roof. This roof doesn't have the color ties. And everything was supported by those posts. They cut out all those posts to install this furnace. Now you remove the support and you added weight. What is going to happen? Fernando, yeah, craziness. This can fall apart. So I got one realtor said, why do an inspection? Let's use seller disclosure. The seller doesn't even know what's going on in their house, right? How the roof is still standing, I don't know. Not for long. Yeah, potential collapse. It will collapse. So that's always a good idea to have someone to take a look and do an inspection to catch those crazy situations. A property inspection is not perfect. It's only what is visible, but a lot of things are visible. Then we can catch all those. That's why I gave you all those examples. So you have here a repertoire of things that are spotted during the inspection. But keep in mind, though, that 86% of issues are just maintenance. And we got a lot of maintenance. So only, less than 15% are of a concern that you should be, worried or take into account. Everything else, it's maintenance. Even loose ridge caps in the roof, that's maintenance. All old roofs will have loose tiles. And what you can do? Just cement back, like I showed in the picture. I saw roofers trying to sell new roofs because of loose tiles, because they're trying to make money. Most of the cases, you might not need it. Just cement those back. You have broken tiles, you need to replace the tiles, but most of the time you just crack it, you just cement back, very simple repair. Be very careful with facial maintenance. I mentioned that before because that can be a termite entry point. Use moisture meter, you can probe with a screwdriver. Take a look here, my screwdriver ain't all the way. So they painted, they're trying to cover, but this wood that is damaged needs to be replaced because on the backs like this, and when you have that moist, rotten wood, there's gonna be just a magnet for termite. This is a magnet. It's like when you go out on the Everglades at 7 p.m., end of the day, you just attract those mosquitoes, right? And you're gonna get bitten a lot. This is the same thing, just attracts those termites. They start from the facial soffits, dry wood, they make their way, they keep crawling. When they reach the attic entrance is because they have been in that house for a while, 5-10 years. Cracks outside needs to be sealed because water is gonna get inside, and with the time they're gonna get to the drywall, moisture will develop into molds, and that can affect living conditions. It's very important to seal doors and windows because that moisture is also not only gonna be it's gonna go to the inside through capillarity, but also that rotten wood will attract termites. Broken rods we find all the time. People don't open windows so much here in Florida, and they tend to break when you use them after 20 years. It's a good idea to have maintenance once in a while, every 5-10 years, to fix those rods, lubricate windows. Most people don't do it. You want to avoid have water accumulation around the house. Those planters are not a good idea because just that water in contact with stucco, especially if you have wood frame house or water around the foundation, this is just a magnet for termites. And now we don't want to attract subterranean termites. Other block of things that are seen on inspection are concerning safety. And those are very small, very simple to fix, but yet very important. Double tapping. You connect two wires in just one breaker. A handyman came there to add a new circuit, add a new something to the house. Instead of connecting with a wire nut, they use the breaker to connect additional wire. It's not allowed. An electrician would never do it. When I see this, I know there is a handyman. That's because when you increase the volume of copper on the connection, you're gonna increase the expansion and contraction, and that wire can get loose on the connection and create sparks that can generate fire. There is a proper way to connect wires. You use a wire nut outside of that breaker. Very simple. Can be done in 10 minutes. But you will not be able to get insurance if you have a double tapping. Insurance companies will also not take lack of grounding. Those two-prong wires cannot. You need to add grounding because that reduces the risk of fires. Trip and fall hazards and all those kind of things needs to be addressed. You cannot have a trampoline in a swimming pool. Not accepted by the insurance. It's another safety. And if you have a swimming pool, it's very important to have protection. You need, as an owner of a house, you need to avoid the risk of a kid get inside your swimming pool and get drowned. And if that happens, you will be responsible. And the gate needs to have at least 4 feet height. Those specifications can change from city to city. You need to have a child-proof, maybe a fence around the swimming pool. When I got my swimming pool approved a few months ago, I had to have alarms installed in the swimming pool. That was Cooper City requirements, so we need to check with the city. And then you have everything else, just little maintenance. Coils, they are dirty and not... You need to have an AC guy to come basically every year to clean the coils to enable the air can flow well. And all this dirty, when it gets to the condensation lines, can clog. Ideally, you want to put a vinegar in the condensation line every 6 months to clean it. I have a video on YouTube. You can see how that is done. Avoid that washable filters. You want to use paper filters that you can replace every month or so. Those are more efficient and is going to avoid bacteria and fungi growth. Make sure all the lines of AC are well insulated so you don't lose energy on your AC. Make sure vents are clean. You don't want to have mold on vents. This white thing here is mold. Clorox is okay for the condensation line, but it's going to kill the plants on the outside. If you put vinegar, you don't kill the plants. So it depends on what you have in the other line of the condensation. Take a look at this house. Beautiful. Everything looked in place, but we took a look on the AC. Ducts were all moist because the AC leaked and fungi and mold was growing on the ducts. That's something that you don't want to have. Accordion pipes, not a good idea. They clog. Plumbers will never use accordion pipes. Only handymans. That is not accepted. Patched pipes, that's going to be a problem. Leaking, water heads, diverters, loose toilets. You need to remove the toilets and change the walk spring. Loose appliances, pop up. They always break. Those stoppers, Sealing of the shower tiles, very important, and so many other small things. But the key here is during the inspection, don't sweat the small stuff. Don't get stuck with all maintenance items. All homes will have maintenance items. Try to address try to focus your energy. What are the most important and critical elements? We're going to discuss more on that tomorrow, and I'll give you tips on how to negotiate your deal. Tomorrow, I'm going to start going over auxiliary reports such as 4-point wind mitigation, termite, mold, sewer line, infrared, seawall, and everything that is not included on the scope of the property inspection and still can be added. And I'm going to talk about how to deal with difficult situations and address problems that can come after the inspections. I'm going to talk about pre-leasing inspections, new construction inspections, choosing the right inspection company, and so much more. Guys, we're done for today. It's 11:30. Has been 2 hours already. Tomorrow we have another 2 hours. I hope you have, hopefully you had some fun. I'm going to play a quick video and we're going to be done for today. No quiz today. The quiz is only tomorrow. Guys, have a great day. It has been a pleasure to be with you guys. Take a look at this video. See you tomorrow. Bye bye. See you tomorrow, guys.